Hi, I'm C.C. Péan, and this is Reclaiming Your Health. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Reclaiming Your Health. I am your host, C.C. Péan. I am so excited to be here tonight, to be back with you all. I know you all have been watching these reboots for weeks now, and the reason is because I have been away from home, and I will be away until probably the middle of October. And so we have just been trying to figure out how I would be able to get back live, and I finally have some time away from work. And this was the first thing that I wanted to do. So thank you for joining me this evening. I don't need to say this, but I will say it. I may look a little different because I'm not wearing any makeup. I think I left my makeup in Tampa. So this is Gully night. It's gully, but it's going to be good. Okay. So this evening, one of the great things about this evening is we have two co-hosts. Melissa Mackey and Yolanda Melbourne are going to be joining us this evening. Ladies, you want to say hey? Hey, hey. Thank you for joining us. So we're gonna have a good little conversation, catch up, talk a little bit about plant-based living. And if you all have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and we will address them as best we can. So tonight's dish is one of my favorite things to make. So I grew up, I've said this a million times, I grew up in a West Indian, West African home, and we never really had traditional American fare. And so when my brother and I finally got on our own and started doing things, there's certain things that we would always order when we went out, or things that we just wanted to eat because we never got them at home. In my house, every single night was a pot of white rice. Not pasta, not potatoes, not lasagna, not pot pie, white rice. West Indian, West African. Oops. So, we ate copious amounts of curry chicken and stewed chicken and all kinds of vegetarian fare. But there are certain things that we never had, and one of them was meatloaf. And I think meatloaf is like the quintessential comfort dish. And so I wanted to make my version of it with a little twist. Now, this evening's twist is going to take us to Asia. We're going to use some gojuchang, which is a fermented chili paste from Korea. And we're also going to add a little bit of lemongrass in there. So it's kind of like a pan-Asian influenced meatloaf. Now, this is a really simple recipe. So if you're not into gochujang and lemongrass, you can use curry in it if you want to. You can use ras el hanout, which is one of my other favorite spices from North Africa. Any spice that is reflective of your culture, you can use it in this. Now, the difference in how I prepare this meatloaf is I put the gochujang and lemongrass in the mixture, as well as use it as a sauce afterwards, after it's baked. That way you get all that delicious flavor throughout the meatloaf. And you all know me, what do I always talk about? Building layers of flavor. So that's what we're doing tonight. So gochujang is something that you can find at the international market, but just as likely you can find it at Whole Foods or even your local market in the international aisle. It's one of those spices that's really gotten into the mainstream, so it's not hard to find. So I have this gochujang. This is from a Korean market. So nothing is in English, but that's what this is. And I was not able to find pure lemongrass paste, which some of you may be able to find. I've shared with you that I buy those little squeeze tubes with ginger and garlic. Well, they actually have one as well that's lemongrass, but I wasn't able to find that. So what I did is I found this garlic lemongrass sauce, and I'm using that in place of just the straight lemongrass puree. So it's going to be it's not going to be as strong, it's going to be a little lighter. I also found this is also another option. This is lemongrass turmeric paste. The great thing about this is it has turmeric. We've talked about curcumin, which is an amazing antioxidant. So you're adding flavor and nutrition and health benefits when you use this one. Okay, so, and you all know that I'm not big on using meat analogs or meat substitutes, but this is a once in a while yummy dish. You can eat this with mashed potatoes and some veggies. I did actually whipped sweet potatoes tonight and spinach. This can go on a nice thick piece of bread. There's so many ways you can eat this. However you eat it, it's gonna be delicious. So ladies, how are you doing this evening?
You know, can't complain. We're doing pretty well.
Great, great. So let me ask you, Yolanda, if you were to make this, what flavor profiles would you use?
See, I don't cook meatloaf, so I'm very interested in how you're going to do this.
Okay.
This is not my thing.
Yeah.
I love lemongrass, so I'm like, okay, this is going to be interesting.
Yeah, lemongrass is good. And what about you, Melissa?
I am not a big meatloaf person because I don't like it. I love lemongrass and I love the seasoning, so it'll be interesting to see how you incorporate everything because now it sounds yummy with the lemongrass.
Yes.
Because you're bringing a whole new experience to a very American dish, right? Now, Melissa, I believe that you're Filipino.
Yes.
Now, one thing that would be great to use in this dish is banana ketchup. Are you not a banana ketchup lover?
Tomato ketchup. Not banana ketchup.
Okay, okay. Well, so I grew up in the Bay Area. Okay, so anybody who knows the Bay Area knows Daly City. I have had a long love affair with Filipino culture. Datu Puti, Silver Swan. I know I can make a mean chicken adobo. I know about all that stuff. But one of my favorite things is banana ketchup because you know why I love it so much? Because it's sweet and it's savory. And I love the play off of those flavors. So that would be a great thing as well to use inside your meatloaf. So let's get started. So on my plate here, I've got different things. I've got celery, I've got some scallion, I've got some carrots, I've got onion, I've got cilantro because I love cilantro. If you don't like cilantro, you don't have to use it. You can use parsley or just take it out altogether. I also have a few cloves of garlic here. Okay. So all of this is going to get chopped down. We're going to get it as close to minced as possible. And Yolanda, can you tell me why I want to mince everything? Let me see if you've been paying attention to my tutorials. Why do I want to make sure that everything is evenly cut?
Because you want the flavor to be everywhere.
That's right. I want that when you take a bite, you get everything in every single bite, A, and B, when you cut things uniformly, they cook uniformly, which is going to result in a better tasting and looking dish in the end. So that's the other reason we do that. So here, for about a pound of your meat, your vegetarian or your vegan meat, you're going to use maybe about 1.5 cups of raw veggies, and you're going to cook these down. Now, the reason why you want to cook these vegetables is because these cooked vegetables are going to contribute to juiciness in your meatloaf. All these veggies are going to make your meatloaf very juicy. There are some people who add soaked bread to their meatloaf to make it juicy. I don't even use breadcrumbs in mine. I just use vegetables and I saute them and I let them cool and then I mix them in. So let me get started with that. I'm gonna turn on this stove. And as you all can see, I'm not home, but I'm in the kitchen nonetheless. And so this is the Impossible Burger. This is the pound. Some people prefer Beyond Burger. Is that what it's called? Beyond Meat? Beyond?
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually like this because it's so scary similar to real meat.
Yes.
And I think if you're somebody who is transitioning every once in a while, it's great to have something like this. It's not something that I would say needs to be in steady rotation, but every once in a while. So I'm going to open this pack up. And you want to keep this cold. So I took it out right before we started. I'm just going to drop this in here. Now, you know, I was talking about different ways to flavor this. Of course, shameless plug. Another thing you can do to give this great flavor is you can use one of my spices. I've got this curry would be really, really great. A curry meatloaf. Then we have this Ethiopia-inspired Habesha spice would be delicious as well.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Why do we want the Impossible Burger to be cold?
Because you don't want it, when it gets warm, it starts to break down. And we want to mix everything up so we can shape it. We have to shape it. The way that I do my meatloaf, I don't put it in a loaf on a sheet pan and parchment. So we want to make sure that it stays together. And when it's cold, you know, when things are cold, they congeal, they stay tight. So that's why when we get the veggies and stuff in it, we want to move quickly. So
Okay,
I'm
thanks.
putting all these veggies in the pan. And if you can see right here, you can see how they're pretty small, but we're eating the rainbow again. So there's carrots, garlic, onions, scallions, cilantro in there. And we're just gonna let that cook. This is one of the easiest recipes. It really is from start to finish. It's about 35 minutes. And that's something else I like to show you all because people get overwhelmed with how sometimes they think it's a lot of work and it's really not. So I'm just gonna let that cook a little bit. And you know, there have been a lot of downsides to the COVID episode that we have been dealing with for some time. But one of the positive things is really pushed people to get back into their kitchens. The healthiest food is home cooked food. And we've gotten used to a lot of convenience. And so I think it's great now that families are getting back to the dinner table and eating. So here are a few simple recipes. A few simple recipes that I am sharing. So you all tell me, did you pick up any new habits during this year and a half? Any new cooking habits?
Well, we tend to eat together on Friday nights. And so we've done everything from spring rolls to sushi to making ice cream. We're going to make ice cream this Friday night.
Oh, wow.
Vegan. Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, you know, I've really enjoyed it, maybe a bit much. You can see that my girth has expanded somewhat, but I have enjoyed it. So what we're gonna do now, I've sauteed that just a little bit. We don't want to cook them too much because, as you all know, I always talk about I love texture, so I don't want to make them mushy, but I don't want them hard either. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna make my mixture now. And like I said, what we do is we actually mix the flavor in. So oftentimes when people make meatloaf, they'll do like salt and pepper, maybe some garlic powder, really simple things like that. We want to kick it up a notch. So we're going to go in here with our flavors. This is the lemongrass, and that's about 2 tablespoons. We don't want to add too much because we don't want to make it too heavy. And then we're going to add, now this is spicy. So you might want to start off with a little bit and then add. So I'm going to add 2 tablespoons because I can handle the heat. I don't know. Can y'all handle the heat?
Yes, I like to pretend I can handle.
I was gonna say,
but I like to pretend. I love that Korean paste that you're using, the chili paste.
Oh, it's so good, so good. And then I'm just mixing it together.
where did you find the lemongrass seasonings that you used?
I got it at Whole Foods. On the international aisle, they had several different lemongrass flavored sauces and things like that. So I just picked up these 2. This one is like a lemongrass simmer sauce, and this is a lemongrass turmeric paste.
Right.
But what I like to use, I can't remember the name of it, but there's a squeeze tube you get it in your produce department. It's right next to the squeezable ginger and garlic and all of that. It's a lemongrass, and I love that. I love that. So we're going to pretend that this is cooled down. And I'm putting that right there. And you're going to understand why I have my gloves in a moment. So I'm going to get in here and really mix this up. So now I'm going to take my 2 to 3 tablespoons of the lemongrass and the gochujang. And I am going to make sure that I'm doing. I'm just really like squeezing it through my hands to make sure it all gets mixed up. And that is literally it. That's it. You can taste it if you want to. I don't add any extra salt to this because the gochujang paste is already pretty salty. And what I like to do at the end is I use a glaze to kind of drizzle on it to give it a little more saltiness or flavor, but you really don't need to add any salt to this. All right, so that's it. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this pan. I have some parchment on it. I did oil it a little bit as well. And I like to free-form my meatloaf. Some people do it in a pan, but I don't. I have been told and I've read that your meatloaf remains juicy when you don't confine it in a loaf pan. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I read, and I'm going with it. So after you get this on your tray, you just shape it. See how easy that is? And that's because my veggie meat is still kind of cold. See, if it was warm, it would be kind of like in shape. And that's it. So this is kind of a small meatloaf. If you're a big eater, you probably want to use like 2 pounds because this is going to shrink a little bit. But if you're a light eating family, this is about 4 servings. And that's it. There is our gochujang. Now, wasn't that easy?
Yes, that was extremely easy.
Super easy. So now we have preheated our oven to 400 degrees, and we're going to put this in for about 25 minutes.
Now, how often have you made this dish, C.C.?
I've made it a few times, not too often, but I've made it a few times when I feel like, some comfort food. And with the magic of television, or the magic of streaming or StreamYard, here is our finished product. After 10 minutes, this is what it looks like.
All right.
And I did not put a glaze on this because I want to drizzle my sauce afterwards. Okay? So let's see. I'm using a serrated knife to cut this. So it's nice and juicy. Let me take a little piece. That's tasty, folks. All right.
Well, what's going in the drizzle?
My drizzle is some more of the lemongrass, some more of the gojuchang, and just a little bit of agave. Just a little bit of agave.
That's it?
That's it. And so earlier this evening, I did some sweet potatoes. I boiled sweet potatoes just like I would do white potatoes, but these are better because these have beta carotene. They're much healthier for you. I just used a little plant milk, a little oat milk in there, a little plant butter, some cinnamon, sprinkled salt. Keep it really, really simple because this sweet potatoes, you know, they're sweet on their own. One of the things that we try to do with the show is reintroduce people to food very close to its natural state. And so often when people do sweet potatoes, they load it down with sugar and all this kind of stuff. And we want to retrain our palate. So this evening we have just literally just covered the sweet potato with enough water. And then at the end, I poured the water off. I did maybe like 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt, a gentle sprinkle of cinnamon, about a 1/2 tablespoon of plant butter. And I just broke it down. And that's what we ended up with here. And I also stir fried some spinach. So we're going to put some spinach on our plate.
Yes, definitely making it.
The last thing we're going to do, we're going to put on our meatloaf.
Look at
So that's our meatloaf.
Audrey, not yet.
So you are making our mouth water over here because we did not eat before the show.
And we're drooling.
Yay. And we're just going to drizzle some of that on the top. And I have to tell you guys, I haven't eaten a meal today, so this is going to be my dinner.
Wow.
Isn't that lovely? So this is our Gojuchang Lemongrass Meatloaf. We've got whipped sweet potatoes and some garlicky spinach. That's a complete meal. And the meatloaf takes about 35 minutes from start to finish. While that's baking, you can get your sweet potatoes going in under an hour. You've got a meal for your family.
Wow.
That's great because we don't like to spend too much time in the kitchen, but it all looks delicious.
Let's see. And you see how it's stuck together. I didn't need eggs. I didn't need any other binder.
Yeah, and I'm surprised. I thought maybe some substitute egg would have gone in there. But it's so simple.
So simple and so good.
She was like, I'm enjoying this. You are enjoying that way too much.
So, addresses to overnight.
This is good food. I really wish you all could join me, but alas, you can't. But, folk, this is a Gojuchang Lemongrass Meatloaf. As I said, you can use any flavors you want to. The key to making this meatloaf yours is use the flavors from your culture. Use the flavors that you love. Just make sure you work them into that meat mixture. And then you can top it off with a little bit of a drizzle at the end. But don't let all of your flavor be what's, you know, a lot of times when people make meatloaf, all the flavor is like the glaze at the top. And people use things like ketchup and barbecue sauce, which isn't bad, but let's switch it up. Let's be a little creative. Let's infuse our cultures into this dish. And that's what I've done. Well, I'm not Korean, but I like Korean food. And I know we have followers from all persuasions. So I wanted to incorporate a little bit of an Asian slant tonight in our dish. So that's what we have.
Well, thanks for sharing. I'm inspired. We might have to make this dish sooner than we thought.
Let's make it tomorrow.
I can't tomorrow. Only Thursday.
Well, thank you all for joining me. And I look forward to seeing you all again next week. Have a wonderful remainder of the week. Bye-bye.